Crouch. Bind. Set.
Joe presents the House of Rugby, together with Guinness.
Welcome to another mini-pod from House of Rugby, brought to you by Joe, together with our very good friends at Guinness. Fair to say Saturday was pretty epic. England storming their way past the All Blacks into Rugby World Cup Final 2019. And I think it's also fair to say that off the back of our mini-pod last week, things escalated pretty quickly between England House of Rugby fans and the fabulous Kirstie Stanway from Sky Sport in New Zealand. But like all good, true Kiwis, she was only too happy to come back to set the record straight and to acknowledge a masterful performance from Eddie Jones and his boys. Let's get into the debrief. You are a good sport, Kirstie Stanway, for coming back and having a debrief off the back of a lively podcast, lively show that we did last week, and then, from an English rugby point of view, the greatest performance that I think any of us have seen in our living lifetime. You're wisely and more than welcome to keep your sunglasses on, because since full time, what have you been doing?
I'm in mourning, hence the all black dress.
Yes.
It feels like there's been a funeral, or there's about to be a funeral.
Right.
And just to rub it in and make things worse, the first time I got out of bed yesterday, I walked out to the lift and I jumped in, and this guy said, "Hi." I was like, "You're English?" And he's like, "Yeah." I was like, "Just the fan I want to see today."
We're just inside your head now for a little bit.
You're inside my head, but he was the nicest person ever.
Good.
He said sorry.
Well, do you know, in a funny kind of way, it's nice to be able just to debrief on it, because A, we've got to pay tribute to an extraordinary game.
Yeah.
I'd be interested in your view on England now, whatever it is, 4 or 5 days on.
Yeah.
The All Blacks have been amazing and gracious in defeat, and actually also I think we just wanted to put it to bed a little bit. You know, there was a lot of high emotion around not only our show but the game itself. But looking back now on the game itself, where were you? What did you make of it? How were you feeling at 50, 60, 70 and the full-time gong?
Well, if we go back 48 hours, I probably had my head and my hands like this.
Yeah.
And then I was waiting to be lambasted over text message, which I was, but in a nice way.
Yeah.
I've never, ever felt like that watching a game before. And I think because of the complete dominance, like the All Blacks usually do that to teams, right? We did it to Ireland the week before, and England did what the All Blacks did to us. And it was the way that we just weren't in the game at all. Yeah. If we had have put up a fight, still didn't get close to them, but you put your best effort out there, then I think we wouldn't be feeling so bad. Yeah. But we are feeling absolutely gutted because of the way that they performed.
Yeah. I remember asking you in the live, in the show that we did, if they lose, will it feel like 07? It I imagine feels very different. 07, it felt like robbery.
Yeah.
But Saturday must have felt like an absolute shellacking. There can be no complaint about the result.
I suppose, I think back over it, and I think back about the interview that we did, and then talking to the All Blacks fans afterwards. Yeah. I suppose we were too cocky, Yeah. I was far too cocky, gonna admit that. But everyone just expected that the All Blacks were gonna go through to the final. Yeah. It was sort of like this is just another one to tick off the box, which is why so many Kiwis flew in from New Zealand on the Friday night, turned up to go to the semi-final, and were just expecting to go another week. Yeah. So after the game, everyone was in shock. Yeah. And I reckon it's still starting, it hasn't really sunk in yet. Definitely hadn't after the game, but now, sort of 2 days later, even for the players, like Aaron Smith posted on Instagram this morning saying he was sorry, he's so disappointed, he's absolutely gutted. Yeah. It's just starting to sink in 2 days later, because it was just supposed to be just another game. Yeah. Even though it's a World Cup final, and we knew that on their day England could upset us, but we just expected it. Yeah. And we were all too confident going into this World Cup. We so were.
So how do you feel now off the back of it?
Can I say the word shit?
You're very welcome to. That is mild compared to what Haskell comes out with.
Does that get edited out?
Yeah.
Shit, like absolute shit?
Yeah. That's it.
But that's sport, isn't it? And we move on.
Yeah.
The sun still came up today, and it would have come up yesterday in New Zealand. I don't know if you saw the front page of our newspaper.
I thought it was a nice touch.
It was brilliant.
Out of the World Cup, turn to the sport pages if you
want to read more. All black front cover on the New Zealand Herald. But there's been some really nice comments, so there's this one, which you probably would have seen.
Yeah.
Matt Gateau hasn't been touched on, but the reason teams around the world continue to grow and develop is because the All Blacks have set a standard for so long that's driven the other nations to try and chase down.
Yes.
12 years of dominance is super impressive, and one loss doesn't change that.
No.
Steve Hansen lost 10 games in charge out of 106 matches.
Which is ridiculous.
Sam Whitelock's never ever lost a game at the Rugby World Cup. This was the first.
Yeah.
It's incredible what they've done.
Yes.
Which is why we just expected them to keep on trucking. But when you're at the top of the world, everyone is coming for you. It's the hardest place to stay, right? Is at the top.
Because when I reflect on the interview we did last week, your confidence and your belief in them, but genuinely, was completely and utterly well-founded. I mean, they hadn't lost a World Cup game for 4,200 days or whatever it was.
It's amazing.
You've been the number one side, back-to-back World Cups, and you destroyed Ireland in the quarterfinals. What it felt like a little bit, though, is that England were coming together and were beginning to start doing stuff, but actually people hadn't really noticed it. If you think about their pool campaign, they had 2 easy games. They looked pretty good against Argentina without showing too much. Then the French game was cancelled. Then Australia, people said England were very good, but Australia were dire. But even if you go back to the World Cup warm-up games, it just looked like something was beginning to boil. And I just wonder, with hindsight, whether there was not complacency necessarily. It was a lack of awareness as to what England were beginning to pull together.
Well, Steve Hansen was completely outplayed, wasn't he, by Eddie Jones? But coming back to what you're saying, you noticed that because you've been following England,
Absolutely.
But we haven't, right? Yeah. We don't, not always anyway, are following what's happening on the other side of the world.
Yeah.
So we didn't realise what was about to hit us. Certainly for fans anyway.
Yeah.
For fans of the All Blacks, no one knew that that's what England were going to bring.
Yeah.
Even though there were murmurs about it, they're physical, they've got a great pack, all of that. But you don't believe it.
Yeah.
And then we found out, and it hit us.
So I had dinner on Saturday night with Ali Williams, a colleague of yours, and he made a really interesting point. He said, New Zealand it's a rugby country, but it's a country of All Black fans, not rugby fans.
Yeah.
And what he meant by that was everybody knows everything that happens in Super Rugby and with the All Blacks, but no one watches
overseas.
Six Nations, Europe, Premiership,
Not at all.
Top 14.
Because of the time zone. Think about when it's being played in New Zealand.
Yeah, sorry. But I mean, has that somehow sort of been confirmed, do you think, over this weekend?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I don't think we'll ever take England for granted ever again at a World Cup. Maybe not any sides from the UK or Europe. But it is that thing, because we're not watching. So we genuinely didn't know. We didn't realise. Even probably during the World Cup, you're talking about pool stages and all of that. It wouldn't have been until the quarterfinals that people actually started to pay attention to England,
Yeah.
Because in New Zealand, they're only looking at New Zealand.
Yeah.
Maybe Australia, maybe South Africa, but not England.
Is this, do you think, in any way going to change that perception? I mean, I can't imagine people are going to get up in...
Nah, I don't think so.
New Zealanders will remain All Black fans, but not necessarily fans of the wider game.
Exactly.
Is there any interest in the third, fourth playoff?
No. Who wants to watch that? Who wants to play that? I actually feel sorry for the players, right? For both teams.
Yeah.
Because no one wants to play this game.
Yeah.
I mean, Gats has been talking it up. He wants to beat the All Blacks. He wants another crack at Steve. But how do you motivate yourself for that after you've just been through the greatest typhoon?
Yeah.
Other than the one that hit Tokyo a month ago.
Yeah, I've no idea. Presumably, do you play your fringe players, those guys who've trained hard, held tackle
But then
bags?
with someone like Kieran Reid, who will be playing his last game, want to play a game that he's winning, not go out on a semi-final defeat, right? He'd want to play, right?
Yes, I suppose.
He's not going to want to finish in the All Blacks jersey with that.
So maybe you give the choice to those players who...
To the ones that are going. Ryan Crotty will play, Sonny Bill, Yetta Shoom will play, Ben Smith will play.
Yeah. Tell me more about the reaction back home. So have you had to broadcast since the game or not?
We've done a couple of live crosses straight after and then one this morning, but not a lot.
And you mentioned the fact that it's sort of beginning to settle in. Is there going to be the Inquisition when they get back? Is there going to be, they'll be nailed to the boards and really?
Yeah, what happened? Well, Steve Hansen's already admitted one thing that he got wrong, didn't he? Not starting Sam Cane.
Yeah.
Was a massive, massive call. And again, because you know how he's tried so many things. He's tried Bodie and Richie. And all these experiments that he's done, moving Artie to 6, they've all worked.
Yeah.
So there was sort of no question around bringing Scott Barrett in, because it was just another one of Steve Hansen's tricks.
Yeah.
But this time it completely backfired. Not that that's any excuse.
Yeah.
I mean, England, I don't think, like, people will blame Richie and they'll blame George Bridge and whatnot, but I don't think, no matter what team was out there, if Rico had have been playing, if Sam had have started, I don't think the All Blacks would have won that game. England were just so on, right? Like, they were in that mind where they were unbeatable, unbreakable, and the All Blacks were never going to get on top of them.
Yeah. What did you make of England's response to the haka?
I liked it.
Did you?
Yeah, it was cool. It was really cool to see that.
I mean, all these things are always sort of built up in the aftermath.
They've been fine.
It always, well, is that confirmed? I know they were going to be.
Yeah, I think it happened today. I know, it was really, really good. And it wasn't disrespectful. It was just a good challenge. Both teams.
Just let it go.
Yeah, exactly.
On the things that really matter.
It doesn't matter, does it, at all?
These things are always defined by what happens in the game, but it did look... It did set the stall out for England, and it sort of seemed to throw the All Blacks. You know, normally they're looking in one direction, but you could see Kieran Reid sort of a little bit lost as to where he should be looking, who he should be focusing on, right at the front of the arrowhead.
And again, the haka was drowned out. For the second week in a row, there was no impact there whatsoever. Swing Low, Sweet Chariot was just reverberating around that stadium. You know, those English fans were so loud the whole game, and they deserved to be. They were up, but that must have helped England a lot. It didn't sound like there were Kiwi fans there.
Well, that's because I did the pre-match. There were a lot of Kiwi fans, and actually the Japanese were all supporting.
But then Kiwis aren't loud, right? Because they get so nervous, and the couch coaches. And this happens in New Zealand. Like, if you're at Eden Park, right, it's silent. Unless someone scores a try, there's, you know, like 5 seconds of woohoo. But otherwise, New Zealanders are such silent fans.
It's extraordinary, because I remember the Lions tour 2 years ago. It was almost an education in fan support for Kiwis. And they tried several things to try and get the crowd engaged, which didn't actually work. But it's fascinating that you don't feel eyes will open. I think the reason there's so much interest in the broader game in England is because players come to the Premiership from New Zealand, Australia, South Africa, etc. And therefore there is a greater interest in the players. You've got a more diverse pack of players.
Absolutely.
But there's no sort of willingness to buy into the Six Nations. Again, to sort of reference Ali, he said, having been up here and played in Toulon, and have experienced rugby up here, the tribalism of the Six Nations and European rugby is intoxicating. But that just doesn't seem to filter down to New Zealand, despite the fact that Carter's been at Racing and Nonu's been at Toulon, etc. Once you're gone, you're gone.
Yeah, that's it. We see the news on them when things happen, you know, if there's an injury or if there's an off-field incident, people are interested in that. But they won't go and make an effort, sit in front of the television, not even record a game. They just don't watch it. There's just no interest whatsoever.
I find that amazing.
Yeah, and I honestly don't think that'll change from this one game.
Does that not leave you open to being hijacked or surprised again?
Probably.
I'm not saying the coaches for once. I mean, they would. I know that they track it for the entire 4 years.
Yeah.
So ahead of 2015, the rumour was that the All Black coaches were tracking Henry Slade as the one to watch, and they couldn't believe it when Slade wasn't picked. So I know they're all doing it, but I just wonder if culturally you were more interested in the game as opposed to the All Blacks, there'd be greater...
I don't think so.
When we discussed in the live show sort of England players, you quite rightly, because of what they've achieved, flipped it back to the All Blacks. I just would love to know who impressed you on the night.
All of them.
To a man.
Yeah, okay, well, Maro Toje obviously listened to the interview, didn't he?
Because certainly poked him in that regard.
Oh, yeah, exactly. He played far better than Brodie. Brodie had an absolute shocker. Both the Vunipola brothers, Curry, Underhill, everyone.
Ford went pretty well.
Ford went well. Farrell went well. Literally everyone. So did they all listen to this? Because
quite possibly.
If that's the motivation you needed, well, thank me later.
Rumours are it was played as the pre-match team talk, so thank you on behalf of all England fans. But I mean,
all of them. It was an unbelievable performance, right? From 1 to 15. Unbelievable.
In the English media or the British media, we're always accused of building our players up, but I just wonder, will New Zealand actually have said, you know, fair play, there's a proper crop of players there?
Yeah, you have to. You have to right after that. Like, they completely showed us up.
Yeah. Because often, and I've got friends working in the Kiwi media, they say that in the aftermath of a game like that, the focus is solely on what went wrong for the All Blacks. I just wonder whether kudos was given
Yeah, I think
how
so.
well England play.
Maybe not in the fans, but in the media for sure. And
Yeah.
the All Blacks have recognised it, haven't they?
Yeah.
That England were far better and they deserved to win. The All Blacks didn't deserve to win. And England left points out there.
I know.
The score could have been far greater than it was.
Yeah. Yes.
And that was already embarrassing enough.
Can we talk about the All Black reaction? Because from from the other side of the fence, it appears to have been unbelievably classy. I mean, Steve Hansen, I watched the entire post-match press conference, his immediate post-match interview. The first thing he did was pay great credit to Eddie and to England. Actually, there was a lovely hug between the two of them. I don't know if you saw that on the touchline as well.
I didn't see it, but we talked about it, right?
They
They're
are
such
really
good friends.
mates, exactly. And there was a really nice moment, and I think Eddie said to Steve, good luck, I know what's going to come. Good luck. Steve said, best of luck in the final. They lose incredibly well, the All Blacks. I mean, obviously they're born winners, but they have had great grace. Does that buy them favour back home, or is that just overlooked?
Well, I don't know. I just know how I'm feeling, and that's how the majority of people back home will be feeling, which is something that you don't want to feel, right? But we bottle this up and we use this as motivation for next time. Yeah. Look at what happened. I mean, we've already talked about it. 2007. Why have we had 8 years of dominance? Because we lost for such a long time. And those players that were involved in 07 never wanted to feel like that again. Yeah. So Richie made sure for the next 8 years he dedicated everything to winning, which is a bit different for this group because of these players that are leaving. They're not going to have that chance, are they? No. Kieran Reid's never going to have the chance to lift a Webb Ellis Cup as captain. Steve goes out as a coach that lost in the semi-finals, not one that competed for the...
He also goes out with 2 World Cup winners medals and
you can't forget what he's done.
Arguably the greatest test win ratio in...
And the greatest coach New Zealand's ever had. The greatest period of rugby dominance New Zealand's ever had.
But will the Kiwis remember him for that? Or will they remember him for the semi-final?
I hope so. I hope that. I think once the dust settles and it sinks in and New Zealand gets over it and realise that it's just a game and in 4 years' time we get another chance, that they'll appreciate everything that Steve and all of these other guys, Kieran. Yeah. He's been a part of arguably one of the best loose forward trios in the game, right?
True. Yeah.
For 8 years. I hope everyone remembers what they've done.
Yes.
Rather than this loss and the way we lost.
Yeah. When you get rid of Reid and Smith and Sonny Bill, and I suppose if you're looking 4 years into the future for another World Cup, how's Aaron Smith?
He's re-signed. I'm pretty
sure
he's re-signed.
Will he go for 4 more years? I'm just thinking about World Cup context.
I think he signed for a year or 2 before. Right. So he would have
so
signed
he
for
might
another
get
2
there,
years.
but you imagine, he's had a couple of World
28?
Cups now. Okay, so he can well be there. But are you a little bit concerned about the next 4 years and new coach, new senior players? The machine just gets back to better.
Kieran Reid's the only player that's in that starting 15 that's leaving.
That is true.
The only player that we know will not be a part. But all of that, Sam Whitelock's re-signed, Brodie Retallick's re-signed, Sam Cane's re-signed. All of these guys had re-signed before the Rugby World Cup. Okay. And there's so much talent that is still back in New Zealand.
Of course. But there's what it appears like is that New Zealand had to go through 07 in order to win 11 and 15. They had to sort of almost learn it the hard way. Yeah. And I just wonder whether the change of coach as well. You're losing a heck of a lot of rugby IP at the top.
It depends who comes into it, doesn't it?
So that's my next question.
There's already been a lot of chat.
Has there? So what is
Scott Robertson?
Really?
People are saying that after that he has to be the favourite going into it.
Right.
Especially.
So just a clean brush.
They reckon the broom will come through and clean everyone out.
Really?
There'll be a couple that stay, but the new coach determines who he wants. Everything. Yeah. Who he wants to be the media manager, who he wants as this high performance guy. The new coach has a say on it all. Wow. But, I mean, they were talking about it today. Warren Gatlin, they don't know what's in his contract and whether
he's got Lions in 2 years.
But could he get out of it? Does he want to? Probably not, because the pay packet will be so big.
Yeah. Joe Schmidt. There's rumours he's going back to France.
Jamie Joseph, there's rumours that he's re-signing with Japan. There's a lot of coaches out there though. Dave Rennie, even though he's rumoured to be going to Australia. Now that the All Blacks have tripped up in the semis, now these coaches probably see a path that they didn't see before this weekend.
Yes. Tony Brown's gone back to the Highlanders.
Tony Brown's gone back to the Highlanders, but from what we've heard, people have both Foster and Razor have both asked him to be a part of the All Blacks.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So either way, he's in there. Yeah. And if Jamie's in there, then Tony's in there as well, isn't it? So he's going to be involved in some shape or form, you'd have to say.
Yes.
There's so many coaches floating around, though. There's so many Kiwi coaches floating around.
Yeah, there's some goodies. To the final couple.
Yes.
questions. Do you now support England or South Africa?
I knew this was coming.
Yeah,
and I'm sorry to break the hearts again. Feel free to DM me, I don't mind. Honestly, I'm not reading them anyway.
Good.
South Africa. I want South Africa to win, but
How can you possibly... You've had such a good half an hour of rebuilding bridges.
Hold on, listen to me,
and
listen
you've
to me.
just destroyed them in one answer.
I want South Africa to win, but I don't think they will. England is going to win.
What in God's name could possibly make you want South Africa to win? They're your greatest rivals.
What alliance do I have to England?
Well, in appreciation of the team that is currently...
Which is why I think they'll win, but my heart wants South Africa to win.
Oh God, stand by your Twitter feed.
I know. Don't worry, I've turned all my notifications off, so I only get them from ones I know.
So you're backing the Boks, but
I think that there's no way that South Africa will beat England. Not after what they did. They were so ruthless, in every way. And they'll just do to South Africa what they did to New Zealand. They'll completely shut them out of the game.
Yeah. I hope you might be right. I'd like you to tip South Africa, actually. I think everyone would like you to tip South Africa just to keep continuity going from last weekend as well.
Yeah.
What are your overall reflections now? I mean, how tough is this final week for you as a broadcaster and having to sort of stay? It sort of feels like the balloon's gone pop, but you're still having to be at the party.
Exactly. First thing I said when we left, can we go home tomorrow? I'd rather have flown out yesterday than wait another week and we don't fly out until next Sunday. But the job's not done, is it? Just like the All Blacks have to keep calm and carry on, we've got to do the same. Not easy though.
Does New Zealand watch the final, and do they watch the biggest game in the
We
sport,
were talking about that yesterday.
Unsure.
Really? Unsure if they will watch that final or not. Unsure if many people in New Zealand will watch the bronze final.
Yeah.
Because it's not. I mean, what's
rugby in your eyes,
exactly what's on it, and especially if they're going to both rest players, then who knows what will happen.
I know.
We'll definitely be watching.
Yes, because you have to, or because just for the tears.
Both.
I
mean, I'll clap if England do win.
Well, that's a lovely
I'll stand
touch.
and clap too. So there you go. I'll give you a standing ovation.
That's a lovely touch. I think we'll take that at this point in time. And I just want to sort of finish with it's a House of Rugby. We're meant to be a sort of inclusive and a fun place to come out. It's got a little bit unnecessary, I think, this week. And on behalf of House of Rugby, I just kind of want to apologise. I hope that people at home acknowledge what a very good sport you've been in coming to have a sort of a debrief. It's been all right. Have you been dreading it, or are you are you glad to have sort of got it off your chest?
I'm glad. I knew this was coming. As soon as we lost, I was waiting for the text message.
Yeah.
Waiting.
But it's been all right.
It's
nice to have a chance just to put it back. You've been a very good sport in acknowledging.
England were just the better team on the day, and you absolutely deserved to win, and I can say that.
It hurts, but you're right to be able to do it.
And Atoje, I'll never ever second guess you ever again.
Good.
Ever.
I hope we've made friends again, and I hope there's a good entente cordiale between England and New Zealand. I'm sorry it's a long run to the final whistle, but here's hoping we get a cracking final. Thank you for being such a good sport. Well done, Kirstie. Thank you.
You've been watching the House of Rugby on Joe, together with Guinness. Drink responsibly. Visit drinkaware.co.uk for the facts.